Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned earlier some of the, just the zaniness that goes on kind of with these fix and flips. Like you mentioned you buy some, it has a ton of title issues. You clear that, you wind up making what you wanted to make. Maybe on the flip, you say, all right, I'll take this away. I'll sell this. What's kind of the craziest thing you've ever, either walked in on in a house or, maybe halfway through a flip? Like we were kind of discussing in our pre-show meeting yesterday, like, I'm a brand new flipper, think about it, and then I just walked into my tile floor in the kitchen that I just did carrying a can of paint. I trip and fall over a hammer and now it's all over the ground on my brand new tile floor. Those are some of the tribulations that you're going to run into as you're kind of going through this business and growing and all that stuff. What were kind of some of your growing pains as you are, work through those flips and some of those, even maybe not flips, just early real estate deals like burns and maybe some, cash that went, to the wayside. What are some horror stories, if you will?
So I kid you not, I'm not very techie, but like, I've had a few people be like, we need you to start telling your stories. So I'm starting to do like stuff on TikTok where I'm telling my crazy real estate stories. Just recently, we did a property in New Orleans, and the contractors texted us and were like, hey, this one was at Steve Keegre, Aussie Steve. And Steve texted me, he's like, Courtney, you'll never guess what the guys just found. It was a plastic container with a bag inside full of ashes, but it had no name on it. And it was a multiple like generation inherited property. Tenants had been there for like at least a dozen years or something like that. They had no idea whose it was. And so no one claimed it. So I was like, I can't just throw this away. So I remember Steve put it in the console of his truck, brought it to me because I found we found the crematorium that did it. And I was like, will you please take this? They're like, yeah, we'll try to find the next of kin or we'll safely, dispose of it or store it or whatever. But I wasn't able to get to them for 2 days. So for 2 days, it was strapped into the front of my my front seat of my truck. And I had no idea was it a male, female, child, adult, murderer, good person, I don't know. And so I kept calling it Buddy Pal in my front seat. And I was like, Buddy, I'm really sorry to be rude, but you're not coming in my house. Like I just don't know who you are. So for 2 days, I run around with that. I go bring it to the funeral home that did the crematorium. I kid you not, 2 weeks later, Steve calls me. He's like, oh my God, we found a second one. And but this one actually was in a box and had a name on it. That was Marla. So for 2 days, she was in the back of my truck, like while I got to the same thing. But at the end of the day, things like that happen. I have dealt with a ton of squatters. I actually now carry because one of the most recent situations, I bought 30 something properties and they were mostly vacant. And so and some of it was a mobile home park. And so I was going in, this was Christmas. The Christmas Eve, I got a phone call that there were squatters that had broken into the property. So we called the police, they went, they couldn't find them. So the day after Christmas, so this is this past Christmas in 2021, the day after Christmas, I go out there. Because I'm like, how'd they get in? We had them board up every window while we're getting ready to do renovations. I'm like, how did they get in? I'm like, so mad. So I go around the back and I see that there was a baby stroller against the back of the trailer. And they had climbed up, pushed in one of the window units and climbed in through that small opening. And they were inside a screwed in trailer, like doors, everything were screwed in. And they were ingressing and egressing through this like, baby stroller, window. So I go and I start banging and I'm like, hey, I'm going to open up the door. If you're in there, you need to get the heck out. Sorry. And I'm like, so I'm banging on there and I get my drill gun out. I open up the door and I'm like, you know what? Maybe they're not in there. Like, so again, I'm yelling, saying, hey, get out if you're in there, hitting on everything, making a ton of noise. So I go in there and I grab some lumber and I go to put like an X over the back window. And as I'm doing that, I hear the door open behind me. It was a closet door. And I turn around and this guy was like looking at me and he had just come. I was in a bedroom. He was in the closet. I didn't go look in the closet like a dummy. And so I was like, you need to get out of here right now. And he was on something. So I've had a few situations like that. To the degree that I hired we have some Navy SEALs that train near the New Orleans region. And I knew
Sure, yeah.
recently retired one. And so I looked at my CPA, I said, can I hire him to train me? And sure enough,
Yeah.
we went. So, I mean, you're going to come across stuff like that all the time. And so that is, I get the discounts that I get the discounts on these deals, these fantastic deals by solving problems. But a lot of times that attracts people whose backs are against the wall, whether it is vacant and you have squatters, right? Or, the owner is facing foreclosure or whatever. So, I've had a gun pulled me on a few times and a few different things like that. But those are more extreme. I mean, obviously found the ashes. If you haven't been in real estate long enough, you haven't found ashes. I found a tombstone. I thought the tombstone, it was the ex-husband's name, and he was buried underneath the trailer on the property. And I called the woman. I was like, please tell me he's not buried underneath this house. But he wasn't. And, just stuff like that. All the raunchy, crazy things too. So at the end of the day, I just haven't found 50 grand in cash yet.
Waiting for that one.
Yeah. Tupperware of cash.
A few hundred deals in, so I'm like, law of averages. Maybe it's because I don't like rehabbing that I don't find it. Maybe that's what it. After doing 100 rehabs, I'm like, I'm done. So now I'm lazy with it, and I'm like, maybe that's why I don't find it, because I don't dig deep enough in the house.
And I'm like a stupid northerner. I'm thinking like finding ashes in a wall in a house in New Orleans. I'm immediately thinking spirits. Like immediately thinking haunted. Yep. Like immediately thinking like worst case scenario. I would have immediately out of my out of attorney review. I'm backing out. Get me out.
So I had multiple closings. So I had multiple closings while I had Buddy Pal in the truck, right? And I was like, they're always like, Courtney, what crazy deal? Because I do deal in a lot of crazy deals. So I'll do the ones where you can't find the heirs, crazy title issues. You got to buy it in 2 days because it's a foreclosure, whatever, right? Always into something. And so I was like, you're never going to guess what I have in my truck. They're like, the whole office is spitting off guesses. And sure enough, I went and walked the attorney out there. They're like, no freaking way. Yeah. So, yeah.